Chapter 3's Vignette was based around Mrs. Schickeles' kindergarten to first grade multi-age classroom. She teaches language arts for a total of 2.5 hours each morning to her young students. Currently they are indulging in a week-long literature-focused unit revolving around Laura Numeroff's If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. Her daily lesson plan incorporates all 6 facets of language arts. They are listening, talking, reading, writing, viewing, and visually representing. Mrs. S. incorporates the listening center into her daily lesson plan. The students not only get to listen to If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, but they also get to listen to other stories written by Laura Numeroff as well. Books like If You Give a Mouse a Muffin, or If You Give a Moose a Muffin, If You Give a Pig a Pancake, and If You Take a Mouse to the Movies. They're all within this listening center. The students will begin to recognize patterns in the books and become more familiar with certain vocabulary that they are learning. They even get to draw pictures about what they are listening to, but that would fall under a different facet of language arts that we will get to later. A culminating project lies at the end of this week's literature-focused unit, and it comes in the form of group work. For this activity, students work together and write pages for a class book following the patterns exhibited in Numeroff's books, and they incorporate their own names into the stories. In order for the students to accomplish this feat, they have to communicate through talking and spread their ideas to one another. There is nothing more powerful than 2 thinking minds working together, especially at such a young age. Mrs. S. also incorporates a reading center into her language arts lesson. The students get to choose leveled books at this center. The books most likely incorporate concepts and vocabulary that are fresh in the students' minds. This allows them to connect with the text and make meaning of what they are reading. This center allows for maximum freedom and requires a great amount of responsibility and self-discipline from the students. If done right, the students could gain a lot from this center, even though it seems so simple. The colored boxes holding books on the right, represented in the picture, all represent different reading levels. Depending on Mrs. S.'s philosophy, she may limit her readers to a certain color or allow them to move beyond or below their current reading level. Mrs. S. incorporates writing into her daily lesson plan often. One activity in particular that she does is create a word wall. As they read the book together, she points out specific words to her students, and the students write these words on cards and place them on the word wall. These words are most often high-frequency words. The high-frequency word of the week that they are focusing on is you in particular, which shows up many times in the story If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. The word wall I have presented in this slide is something more advanced than what the students in Mrs. S.'s class are making, most likely, but it probably is something similar. Mrs. S. uses a phonics center to not only identify sounds, but to make meaningful word or sound image connections. The featured letter in this specific lesson plan is M. Some students sort through objects and sort them into bins labeled with letters. Of course, the majority of the objects start with the letter M. Other students may choose to use magnetic letters to spell out words that start with the letter M. Either way, the students are viewing something that starts with the letter M. Whether it be the sound M makes or the actual letter depends on the activity they choose. This activity, or activities, in this phonics center are extremely important for the students. Mrs. S. uses a comprehension center that allows kids to visually represent what they are learning. She allows the children to use mouse hand puppets as they sequence objects and retell the story as they interpreted it. This sort of visual representation will allow the students to make meaningful, well-thought-out connections with the book and the concepts that follow sequence. It also helps incorporate Gardner's bodily kinesthetic intelligence. The mouse hand puppet that the kids are using may look something like the picture on the right. However, to get really creative, they could even create their own mouse puppets out of paper bags. Mrs. S incorporates almost all of Gardner's multiple intelligences and successfully uses all the 6 facets of language arts in her daily lesson plan. She engages her students in multiple ways and created unique and authentic ways of learning for the students. Overall, this vignette represents a job well done.